Hi you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. Welcome back to another Project Life process video. In this video, I'll be working on 2016 week 40. So I am just trekking along with this year and keeping up to date. The first thing that I'm going to be doing on this layout is working with this insert that I did. This is a project that I decided to work on. I guess it's not technically a project, but something fun I wanted to do that I decided last year. I saw this picture, this top picture that you can see of my kids when they're little, and I took that. In 2006, and last year I saw it hanging in our house, and I thought, you know what? I want to try and recreate this after 10 years. And I actually thought I had taken it in 2005, but I really took it in 2016. So then I had to wait a full year. So I had it on my calendar so I would not forget. We went to the exact same place. We went on the exact same day, and I did my best to get the exact same time. I actually took it at around 5:30, and my older daughter could not meet until 5:45. So in all intents and purposes, the lighting was, almost exactly. I'm just glad it wasn't a cloudy day. It ended up being really great. And it was a lot of fun to do, to recreate this and just see them like a decade older. It's actually really surreal. So the first picture that I took, I set out to take this really great picture of my kids. We had just left the school fair, and, there was a fly that Tess was trying to swat. Megan's crying, and Bella is just doing her thing. And it is the reason why I love it so much, and the reason why I wanted to recreate it and that I have it blown up and hanging in my house is because it is so true to life. It's just their personalities completely perfectly captured. And so I wanted to recreate that. So that was a lot of fun to do. So in this insert, a lot of what I just told you about, I actually have written in that journaling there. And, I wanted to obviously have these pictures pitted against each other so you can really see the difference a decade makes, that 10 years makes in a child's life. And so as you're watching this, you can kind of see me going back and forth. And I wasn't loving the way that the layout was looking. And so I decided to change it up, where I'm just taking both of these photos. And I think these photos are randomly sized. They're like a 5x7 or 5.5x7 or something like that. So they're not the normal 4x6 or even a 5x7. It's a little bit different. And I've decided to use those same letter stickers because I'm trying to use them up. And I decided to completely change the layout. So you'll see here that I'm trying to figure out where to put this journaling. And honestly, to me, aesthetically, it just was not fitting. So you'll see in the end, by the time I'm finished, and I don't even finish this part 100%, but you'll see that I ended up cutting that piece of paper down. And I think that's probably what I'm deciding to do right now. And just making it smaller than an 8x11. And that's fine because I can easily just cut off the top, and then I don't have the excess page protector up at the top. And you'll see me do that in just a minute. I have that picture that I took of the girls with the frame that we have in the house. And I decided, instead of putting that in one of the 4x6 pockets, that I would put it on the back, and then I would have the journaling on the back. So that's actually something that I still need to complete. I just need to reformat that journaling, and then that will be done. So I'm moving on to the spread, or instead of the insert, and I'm just cutting down this quote that I took. This was a recent, in my church, we have a conference every 6 months. And there's talks and inspiration, and it's a weekend long. And so the two quotes that I have on this layout are the two quotes that really stood out to me. Lots of stuff stood out to me, but these two in particular. And so I'm just writing some journaling about that weekend and about how that weekend went for us, which is why I put 2 dates. I put a Saturday and then a Sunday. And then that other journaling, you can see, I believe I wrote that a few days before I was working on this spread, because I found a card that worked. And so, when Sometimes a story comes to mind and you just need to jot it down and then stick it in the sleeve. Sometimes that's a really great way to make sure that you do not forget your stories. So one of the things that I really had determined to do on this spread is to use stamps. Now, I don't always use stamps, but I have a ton of stamps. I subscribe to Ali Edwards story stamps, which I love. And then I get an occasional stamp from Studio Calico. In their kit, they're usually a smaller stamp set. And then sometimes I'll buy separate kits like this one, for instance. I believe this is from Kelly Purkey, although it could be from Kathy Zilski. I can't remember now. I'll have to look and I'll put it in the notes. But I don't use, like, I just have a ton, and I was like, I am using stamps this week. That is what I'm doing, that I'm going to do differently. And since I've been doing 1 or 2 spreads every week to try and catch up, I've noticed that I want to, and to make it so I'm not bored, I want to switch it up and I want to do something different. So that's why this week I was like, I'm doing stamps. And you can see that this stamp set is called, it's from Simon Says Stamps, and it's called Texting, I think. And I wanted to just add a little emoji. I really like it because it has emoji. And I wish I didn't buy they actually do have the dies that go with it. And I didn't buy the dies, but I wish I had, because I had a interesting time trying to cut this out and make it to be a circle. I tried to look through my circle punches and I did not have a circle punch that same size. And so, you can't tell from the video, but it is very roughly cut into a circle, and that's totally fine. It's not that big of a deal, but I would have preferred a stamp. So you'll see that I deal with that a little bit later. I think right now what I'm trying to do is, I was trying to decide the positioning on that. So I cut, a test piece to see if I cut off the bottom, if I liked the way that rested on the text that was right on the photo. But I decided that I didn't like that after all. So I'm moving on to my, the title page. And I'm either looking for a label or I'm trying to decide how I want to put on the date, because there's a lot going on in the photo. And I think if I just stamped right on it, I would lose the date. So I went and I grabbed a stamp set. Again, remember, I'm going for stamp sets. This one came from Studio Calico, and I think it was Studio Calico and One Little Bird together. And it came in one of their class kits that I had subscribed, and I can't remember, it was like Day by Day or something like that. So I decided to pull out the label stamp that they had there and then just put the dates right on the labels and then cut them out. I've seen Kelly Purkey do this numerous times. And I think, sometimes when you see something over and over again, it just gets inside your brain. And then, you see a label and you're like, oh yeah, I can put a date in it. And so that's what I did. And so then I end up just stacking them up on top of each other and just stapling it right onto the photo. And after I was done, I thought, gosh, why don't I do this more? Because I always have a ton of photos, so I could always use a photo instead of one of the other like 4x6 cards. So I thought, yeah, I should definitely do that more. I like the way that looked on top of the photo. So again, I'm going for more stamps, and what I'm going for on this card is I'm telling the story of my husband. He was gone for 10 days. He's home now. Yay. He was gone for 10 days, and he went like from Michigan to Virginia, and anyway, he was gone for a while. But as I was writing this, I realized this would be a good story for next week. So I went ahead, finished the card anyway, and then I put it in for next week. So you can see that I kind of put it behind that photo of my legs. So anyways, I will use that for next week, because he was gone mostly all of that week. He wasn't gone, like he had just left on the weekend. So that's why I decided to just leave it for the next week, and I thought it would go really well. So this card that I'm working on, again, using a stamp, And I accidentally got some on my finger and then I got it onto the paper, and it's not that big of a deal, but I decided to switch it to the backside mostly because I could. If that wasn't an option, I don't think I would have even messed with it, just because, I don't want to get another like card just because of that one little mistake. So again, I'm doing a border just to ground that photo. I've really enjoyed doing that. And now I'm looking for some more cards. I've got a couple spots that I'm trying to fill. And I really liked that card there that says, "Our stories matter." And it's actually it's bolder red than I probably would have wanted to use, because there's not really any of that red anywhere else. And so I'm really debating about using that card. On the teal side, or the bluish side, it says, "My story matters," but I really wanted the "Our stories matter," because that's really why I'm doing the Project Life. Is I feel like our stories matter, and it's something that I want them to remember and go back and look at their life over time. So I think that's why we are all doing Project Life and our other scrapbooking projects, or just writing in a journal, is so that we can reflect back on our life. We can see the lessons that we've learned, and how we've grown over time. So here I'm just going to be adding a date stamp to this 3x3 card. That's something I typically do. I like adding that little stamp there, not only to document, but also just something added right there to the photo, just to give the journaling a little something more. So the next thing that I'm going to do is, remember, you can't really see it, it's off screen, but I stamped that little emoji, and so I wanted to color it so it would look like the yellow emoji that we have on our phone. So I'm using, I believe it's Y15 and Y17, and I don't know the names of the colors, but those markers, the Copic markers, is what I'm using. And I actually thought it ended up being a really dead on match for that emoji. So now I'm going to stamp a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday sort of a thing. And then I'm going to circle a Saturday. And it actually stamped really bad. I don't know what happened. It was almost like my ink was dry or something like that. And I wish I had done a practice. And then when I actually circled the Saturday, it didn't even circle right. But I was like, whatever. You know me, you guys. I always am making these mistakes, but I'm not going to go back and reprint this picture. So I'm calling it good, even though I was like, I wish I kind of hadn't done it. But I heard someone once say, you're stamping on a stamp, you want it to look like a stamp. So I decided, yeah, this is a stamp, I want it to look like a stamp. So now I took some some foam tape and just a little square of that, and I'm using that just to pop up the emoji so it kind of stands out a little bit. And you'll see that I actually end up doing that again. But right now I'm just mixing things around, and for some reason I'm having a hard time figuring out where I want to place things. I definitely do not want the quotes on top of each other. And this quote was, it was so challenging to get it in the pocket. I guess that pocket was a little bit smaller than the other one, that I just ended up putting it back. And then that black and white picture of my daughter, I was just having a hard time feeling like, where it belonged. So I end up ditching that photo, and that might be something that I will add somewhere else. And then I just add this journaling that says "Never Stop Learning." And I like that it's another added yellow to the layout. So you'll see that I've got the one emoji that's off screen, and then the "Never Stop Learning." And then eventually I do add another emoji just to add a little bit more yellow. So I decided that I want to do a little bit more stamping, because as you can see, I've not done enough. It actually was a lot of fun to use my stamps, and I felt like it was then, I'm getting my money's worth, and I'm actually using the stuff that I'm buying. So I really loved it, and I definitely want to do it again and play around with the stamps that I have. So I'm just stamping love right on the photo. And it was funny, when I was working on this, I realized that I wanted to put fall, and in one of my other photos I wanted to put yes, and I was like, I think I put that on my photos last week. So I thought that that was kind of funny that I was having that same sort of thought. Something I also want to show you, I'm using Memento Luxe ink to for these emojis that I'm using with the Copic markers, because I think they don't run maybe like the other ones do. That's been my experience. So that's why I ended up using that Memento Luxe. And then I'm just using those markers again, the Y17 and Y15, to do a little bit of shading. And then you saw me cut it out, so it's already cut out. And then I'm just going to use some of those foam squares and just pop it up just to give it a little bit more texture. And so it stands out just a little bit more. So I think I am nearing the end, you guys, if you can believe it. Like I said, I did have a lot of fun working with the stamps. So I would encourage you to definitely get out your supplies and work with your stamps, or work with whatever supplies that you have. So I hope you guys were able to get some inspiration from this. If you like what you saw, please subscribe and don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I will catch you next time. Thanks, you guys. Bye.